Morning, everybody. Happy hump day. On this show, we got Jimmy, a.k.a. the Maverick. We got a massive episode here. We are talking about the top 10 fantasy football breakouts, guys that are on the brink of absolutely taking off to another atmosphere. I mean, this is huge. Big-time breakouts. Jim, welcome to the show, man. I'm excited to dive into this, dude.
Me too, Counselor. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk breakouts. Before we do, though, guys, if you haven't got the 16-round draft solution, grab that and Jim's app. He's created an amazing app. It's a 16-round plus tool. I've linked both below. The solution's amazing. You get all my optimal players to draft in each round. You get all the sleepers, breakouts, a printable cheat sheet, and I update it. But Jim's tool is like, do you want fries with that? Do you want more? And it's an additional tool, which is absolutely amazing. You open it up during the app. It's going to give you a ton of insight from contract year players to bounce back players to regression players. So much insight, and you can custom tailor it to your draft. So guys, grab it below, 16-round draft solution and the plus tool, and you will literally be light years ahead of the sheep. Right, Jim? Your tool's ready to go.
Absolutely, it is, and I'm very excited that that we're in that season right now. We're in July. Training camp starts this month, Counselor. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The energy is there. And, once July hits, I can feel it because everybody's starting to order 16-round draft solution. The numbers are starting to come up on the views for the podcast audio, for the YouTube. My Instagram's already booming in the millions upon millions of eyeballs there. Dude, it's an exciting time, and I'm excited to share my insight with everybody and actually help you guys win your league. So, dude, it's exciting. So grab the solution. Oh, yeah. The t-shirts are out as well, Jim. Smash it, tap it, slap it. We haven't done laundry in this house, but I want to wash my Lion shirt, and I want to start wearing it. Dude, just enjoy it because you're going to be seeing that line all the time with the Smash It, Tap It shirt. So make sure you guys do smash a thumbs up. Turn on the bell. We're going to rock it for you here every single morning. Jim comes on twice a week. Tim comes on twice a week, but every morning at 7 a.m. All right, let's get to it. People are like, let's just get to the content here, and we're going to do that here for you. And what better way to do it? We got our hired help here.
We now have breaking news.
I love that guy. I think he's got the greatest voice.
We now have breaking news.
Do we have a name for him? What do you want to call that guy? Jim, do we have a name?
Call that news guy.
Yeah, I think he needs a name. Let us know in the comments what we should call him.
Tom Brokaw.
Let's one more time. Let's listen to his voice here.
We now have breaking news.
Okay, based on that, let's try to find a name for the breaking news guy, voice guy, okay? Because he's hired help. So every time we play that, there's a commission paid to the guy. No, not really. He's just a sound effect. But anyway, we need a name for him, okay? Jim, in regards to news here, there really isn't anything to jump out on me. There's a couple notes I want to make. Lad McConkey, this was a few days ago, actually. I think it was on the 1st. This is awesome because he's one of our breakouts. I'm spoiling it, but I'm gonna make him the first breakout so we can roll right into it. But the Chargers wide receiver Lad McConkey drew some quote high praise from Justin Herbert. He's saying that basically he just picked up the offense so easily. Quote, it's been like he's been a 4 or 5 year vet. He understands the game, Herbert said. Dude, that's exciting for a guy that I have on all my rosters. And you guys are saying, well, you told us Quentin Johnson last year. Dude, Quentin Johnson just did not perform. He looked terrible out there, but McConkey's a smooth route runner. They know what they did, and you learn from your mistakes. So if you invested a first-round pick last year in Quentin Johnson, they're like, what did we do wrong? Was his route running off? Was his hands off? What did we do wrong? And they improved that with Lad McConkey. So, dude, I mean, that's in the news. What do you think of that? I mean, isn't it quarterbacks always praising their players, though, Jim? Should we be excited about the news?
Yeah, I mean, again, you got to watch out for the smoke, the smoke screens and the happy talk. There's a lot of that this year. I'm more inclined to see, okay, is he playing with the first team offense? How much is he being targeted by his quarterback? Those are the things I'm more interested in seeing as opposed to just the quarterback saying, oh yeah, he's great. He's doing well. He's really picking up the offense, blah, blah, blah. That mostly doesn't mean anything. So anyway, training camp starts in just a couple of weeks. We're going to see it. We're going to see his usage. We're going to see his connection with Herbert, but it looks good. I mean, I'm not at all concerned. This is a team that got rid of 85% of the people, 85% of the targets from last year's season are not on the team this year. This is wide open. And I think he is an opportunity, slot player, tons of volume, taking over basically Keenan Allen's role. You know, he could be a target. He could be a total target hog. And that's what we want to see. That's what we want for fantasy. So yeah, I'm all in.
All right, other things in the news here I want to note here. This is a couple days ago as well, but it's worth mentioning. Roman Wilson's performance during training camp could determine whether the Steelers add a veteran wide receiver before the start of the year. And that's what I've been feeling all offseason with the Steelers. It's like they're not really comfortable with George Pickens. They were flirting with Ayuk. There was talk about Ayuk being acquired there. And they got Roman Wilson. They got to see how good he is. I just don't know if the Steelers feel really warm and fuzzy with their wide receiver core. That's the feeling I'm getting. I got a sense of that based on their even this news about Roman Wilson. We got to see if Roman Wilson's good enough, or we're going to bring in somebody else. Dude, why don't you have conviction in your draft pick? Why don't you have conviction in George Pickens? Like, that bothers me. And you got Pat Freiermuth too to catch the ball. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, and don't forget, it's Arthur Smith there, and he doesn't like to throw the ball a lot anyway. I am concerned that Ayuk could be someone that is acquired by the Steelers, although we've never seen the Steelers acquire a wide receiver. They don't do it. They always develop from within. And so because of that history, because of how Mike Tomlin runs his team, I think this is more of a long shot than anything else. I don't think it's going to happen. But it could, and if it does, that's going to devastate the value of Pickens, which would be disappointing. Yeah. But because of that, I've kind of been staying away from Pickens. I like Pickens, but I that uncertainty is making me not want to take him in drafts. But anyway, I'm not too concerned. I think they're going to stick with who they have on the team.
Yeah, I'm getting that sense as well. They might do something there that might just destroy the buzz of Pickens. Also, Breece Hall said he's back to his old self. But according to, I'm hearing he's holding out, he held out of OTAs due to an undisclosed lower body injury. But I don't know. I'm not really, scared of this lower body injury that's going on here, because I saw a video recently. He's training and he absolutely looks phenomenal, dude. Like, I saw some videos of him just like, I don't know what he was doing. He's just doing, the foot drills and stuff like that, and running around cones. And the guy looks like a beast, exactly like a beast. So I'm really not concerned about this undisclosed lower body injury.
I'm not concerned about injuries at this point in the year. If he is injured and not playing once training camp opens, that will be a concern for me. But for right now, I think he's fine. Speaking of videos, I don't know if you saw the Kyron Williams video. He looks like lightning fast. The video wasn't sped up, but it looked like it was sped up. He was going so fast.
I'm seeing this one. I gotta check that one out. And we're gonna talk to him. He's coming on the show, I think probably late this month or early next. So we're going to have him on the show very soon. I mean, the Fantasy Sports Summit is creeping up. So if you haven't got your ticket, you grab it below. Combo with 16 rounds if you haven't. One more thing I want to talk about in the news here, and I just hate older players demanding stuff when, like, you suck at this point. Saints Alvin Kamara may not report to the start of training camp if the Saints do not improve his current contract situation. Like, I don't know, man. Like, guys like him, guys like Cortland Sutton, like, you're good, but you're not amazing. Like, I don't see you, like, I feel like after you hit a certain age, like, you lose your leverage. Like, you're 28, 29, 30 years old, or you've been in the league after 5, 6, 7 years, and you're not a superstar. Like, you're good, but you're not, like, outstanding. I mean, the guy, I don't think he's got 1,000-yard rushing season. I know he's known for his pass catching ability, but that was years ago when he was with Mark Ingram. This was like, it's kind of old news, but here he is holding out, like, potentially, like, Alvin Kamara, really? Like, do we, like, why? You know what I mean?
I think it's because he's just trying to milk out whatever money he can now because he knows it's close to the end. I think he knows he's close to the end. He kind of peaked about 3 seasons ago. And he's at that age. He's at that age where the cliff dive can happen. So I'm not taking any Kamara in any of my drafts. Not really concerned about it. He may still be good, but I'm not taking that risk. I don't like to draft old guys. So.
But he's making a lot of money, and like, he's going to be an undrafted free agent in 2026. He's set to make a base salary of $22 million in 2025. That's what I'm seeing here, according to this website, SpotTrack. He's got a lot of money coming in, man. Like, I think he's making $10 million base in 2024 with almost a $3 million signing bonus. There's a restructure of $4 million. He's making, like, it says his dead cap is $18.2 million. Like, he's making decent money. Like, he's not, like, not making money, and he's threatening to hold out at his age. Like, it's not like you're making $2 million a year, dude. Like, stop. You're not that good. Like, that's what annoys me. But anyway, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our first guy here. Let's get right to our breakouts here, Jim. The first guy we talked about, I don't want to spend too much time on him because we kind of talked about him, is my guy, Ladd McConkey. And somebody's got to step up and pick up the slack for a quarterback that throws a ton. Had his worst year last year was Justin Herbert. A lot of that is due to his injuries. I mean, Keenan Allen fell apart near the end of the season, missing the last 3 games of your fantasy football playoffs, as I said he would. Mike Williams was out early in the season. His 2 primary targets were gone. Couldn't kind of figure out he couldn't gel with Quentin Johnson.
Eckler kept getting injured too, right? Eckler missed a lot of time as well and wasn't very effective either. So it was a tough year for him because it was the problem with these aging players around him. They were all so old and they all kind of fell apart at the same time. So now we're like just cutting them all loose and starting fresh. So
yeah, I think it's a good start. They got Brendan Rice there, who could be something. You never know. He's a deep sleeper, 7th round pick, son of Jerry Rice. Could be exciting there. Quentin Johnson, Josh Palmer is just going to be Josh Palmer. He's going to be a little safety blanket there. But again, they lost Everett. They lost Williams. They lost Keenan Allen, they lost Eckler, so less checkdowns. That's where I think Ladd McConkey just going to fill those voids and he's going to be a PPR monster. Kind of reminds me of like a Wes Welker or something like that back in the day when he was like an absolute monster on the Patriots. So Ladd McConkey, guys, average ADP around 6 to 8. I got him in all my drafts, and his ADP, when you look at his actual overall ADP, it's a lot lower. Like you'll see it like, you think he's coming off around 8 to 10 type thing, sometimes on some consensus rankings. But when you're actually doing an actual draft, I want to emphasize this with a lot of these players here that we're going to talk about. They're coming off a round or 2 earlier. Now in our dynasty draft, I think one of the other guys we're going to mention was a rookie that I absolutely love, came off like 4 rounds earlier. Like, so you got to anticipate. I did a video on draft strategy, so go back and check that out. In 16 rounds, I'll also kind of go over this with you as well during the mock drafts, but expect McConkey to come off earlier, especially when training camp comes in and that news breaks out that he's absolutely amazing that we saw, months and months ago. And, as soon as that breaks out, it hits the mainstream and all the sheep jump on him, his ADP should continue to rise. So that's why I like to draft early, Jim, because I already know the talent. Like last year, I knew Dell was good. I knew that Laporta was good. I didn't want the news to hit that these guys are doing really well, and then their ADP skyrocket 4 or 5 spots. I don't like that, Jim. I like it early.
Right, yeah, exactly. And right now I've got Ladd McConkey. I got his expected draft position at about 76, so that's early 7th round, but really you should take him in the 6th round if you want him.
Yeah.
And I would anticipate he's going to move up from there once training camp starts. So, yeah.
And Jim's draft tool is really good at that. Once you set it to, you set all your parameters, 1 point PPR, 12 person, and your draft position is as a draft mode, and you can set your draft position. It's going to lay out when players are coming off, and you can actually see everything. You can just go to the next screen and see everything. Very easy layout, very easy to follow. So grab the 16 round plus tool. We've linked it below. You guys will be very, very happy with it. All right, Jim, your next guy here. I like this guy a lot. I actually ended up getting him in a $350 buy-in league a couple weeks ago. Malik Neighbors, what's your deal with him? Why do you think he's going to break out, other than the obvious that he's good?
Well, I like his draft position. I mean, Marvin Harrison is a fantastic talent, but he's a guy you got to take in the 2nd round, which for me that's very risky for what he could possibly do in his rookie year. And again, he could be great. He could get you 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns, and then I'm sitting here eating crow. But I think that Malik Neighbors is the perfect balance of draft position and value, because he's going off basically in the late 4th, early 5th round from what I'm seeing right now. And
hold on, I disagree with you. I see him coming off as early as 2 to 3. Now, Jim typically, we want to get this straight. Jim typically talks in best ball. Now, I did a bunch of leagues. He's coming off rounds 2 to 3. So again, but you're right. He could fall to 2, 3 to 4. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to make that point.
Yeah, and I know there's risks with his quarterback being Daniel Jones, but this guy is an amazing talent. I mean, he was taken 6th overall in the draft. I do believe, I believe it was 6th. So he's got a ton of draft capital on him, and he is the only receiver of note on this team, on the Giants team. They don't have Saquon Barkley anymore. Malik is going to be the centerpiece of this offense. He's going to get all the targets, probably a 30% plus target share right out of the gate. And I like the fact that you can get him, like I said, in the 3rd round, 4th round, as like your flex receiver. If you go, 3 receivers in the first 4 rounds, to me, that's just like perfect. That is like a perfect prime spot to draft someone like Malik Neighbors. So,
yeah. But if you're drafting I ended up going, where did I come off here? I was drafted. I typically, every time I drafted this year, I was drafted from the 8th to 10th position. So coming back around, and he was typically falling to my 3rd pick coming back. So, but there is chances that people, like especially dynasty heavy guys that see the talent and see the upside. Now, again, you look at him, and there's so much more upside than a guy like Nico Collins simply because of less competition. Now, I don't listen to a lot of other fantasy football podcasts, but just because I get annoyed how much bad advice they're giving, I saw another guy talking about how good Romo Tuesday is going to be and how you have to draft him and how his ceiling is massive because Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are going to draw the double coverage, and it's going to leave him wide open to be a target monster. And I don't like that thought process. I don't believe in that because your targets are going to get diluted when you have 3 wide receiver ones. I'm all about the mindset that if you are the only wide receiver one, then you're going to eat. Now, again, his example was, well, Quentin Johnson was drafted with high draft capital and Keenan Allen went down and so did Mike Williams. And high draft capital guy didn't do anything. And that was kind of his reasoning behind going Romo Tuesday. Guys, it's totally different. If you got 2 healthy wide receiver ones there, they're going to eat, right? And Quentin Johnson just sucked. I don't know what it was. There was something there that just didn't work. But Malik Neighbors is in a prime position. Jim, does this make sense, though? Are you all of the mindset? Like Romo Tuesday or Nico Collins, right? They're in a 3-headed monster situation. I'm turned off. That's where I think Malik Neighbors is better value.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it caps what they can do. And you look at the example of like the Seattle Seahawks last year, where you had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and then they brought in JSN, and JSN got drafted very high. He was being drafted in the 7th or 8th round last year. And the dude only ended up with like 500 receiving yards. And it's just because there was 2 other wide receiver ones that were drawing targets, and he just wasn't able to get enough volume. People are saying that, JSN is going to be better this year, but he might be better, but he's still capped because the other 2 guys are still there. So, again, we've talked about the wide receiver by committees that are forming in the NFL right now that are very, very terrible. And I hate them very much. Again, there's no question who the number 1 target leader is going to be on this team. There's no question. It's not going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. It's not going to be Darius Slayton. It's not going to be, all these other D-list receivers. Yeah. You've got an A-plus receiver here, and his upside is the 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. And people are talking about like this guy's can be like what OBJ was in his rookie season. Just an outstanding breakout superstar year. I can see that happening, and I'm willing to take a chance on it, especially where he's going on the draft board.
Love the value. I'm all in on him. Now, some people say, well, Daniel Jones sucks, blah, blah. Well, you guys are drafting Marvin Harrison with Kyler Murray, and he sucked the past 3 years. That's all I got to say. And so people say, no, he doesn't suck. If you're not on the field, you suck. Like, I always hate that injury talk. Like, oh, he's so good, but he hasn't been on the field for 3 years. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So you're taking a risk as well with Marvin Harrison, so don't give me that stuff as well. And he's coming off round 2, which I like as well, but, that's part of the game. I think Daniel Jones will be efficient enough to get the ball to Malik Neighbors. Next guy, absolutely love. I just talked with him in my yesterday's video because I was knocking running backs I hate, and one of them I dislike is Tony Pollard. And, dude, Tajay Spears is primed to succeed. Round 7 to 9 ADP is what I got here. But comes off, again, typically on the earlier side, rounds 7 typically. I love him, and I'm going to talk about him in a lot of videos here. He's explosive. He's young. He's dynamic. Had 100 attempts last year. Still was getting some work with 280 attempts going towards Derrick Henry. Those 280 are freed up. Now, there's talk about being a 50-50 committee. And what's crazy is that Pollard is coming ahead of Spears. And the point that I always make with this is that Spears already knows the offense. He's been on the team. He was the backup. He was drafted to be Derrick Henry's backup. So this is a team that has Derrick Henry, had Derrick Henry, and they know all about running backs. And I'm sure when they were scouting Spears, there was something in the back of their mind subconsciously like, dude, we got big shoes to fill. So they drafted Tajay Spears in round 3. In comes Tony Pollard, who's a backup for years, drafted in the 4th round by the team that he's no longer on with the Cowboys, a failed RB1, a failed backup. Yes, he got paid a decent amount of money coming onto the Titans, but I was telling everybody in yesterday's video that you got to pay people these days. It is what it is. You got to pay people for talent. He's a great insurance policy, but I believe Spears is the guy. And he's also coming to the Fantasy Sports Summit. If you haven't got your tickets, a virtual summit, guys, come join us. Spears will be there. again, some people say, well, you're biased because Tajay Spears is coming to your summit. That's why he's coming to the summit, because I knew at the beginning of the year, even before Pollard was there, that Spears was due for a breakout year. Fantasy football 2024, major breakout year. Tajay Spears, I love the talent. Your thoughts, Jim, on Spears?
Yeah, I do like Spears, but I am a little bit concerned about this backfield because both Tajay and Pollard appear to have like very similar skill sets. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually run this backfield. Is it going to be a 50-50 backfield, or is it maybe Tajay takes 60, maybe 70? I don't know. I can't say. Last year, Pollard was injured for most of the season. It was a bad season for him, and there's a lot of risk. But the positive point is that these guys are available much later than you think they would be on the draft board. And so, when you're drafting them as your fourth or fifth running back, I could totally see doing that because Tajay does have the upside and a really good value at where he's going in the draft board. So I like that as well. I got to say, of all the teams, the one that's the biggest mystery box for me is the Titans. It's the biggest mystery box because is Levis good? I don't know, but he could be really good.
I
And
think
they really have given him every chance to, like, they've surrounded him with so much talent. It's like, okay, it's do or die for him. If he does make that leap, that's great for the whole offense. And I'm excited about Calvin Ridley. I really like Calvin Ridley where he's at there. But it really kind of depends on Will Levis having the kind of season that I think he could have. I think he could do it, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
I think he's good. I think now that he's, slated as the guy going in, he's had a year in the offseason. He's got all these weapons. He showed us that flash in the first game he came out with Hopkins. He had that big 3-4 touchdown game, whatever it was. I think he's got what it takes. Can he actually apply it consistently? That's the big question. We're going to find out this year. But either way, fantasy football breakout, Tajay Spears, absolutely love him. Next guy, I don't care for. I see a couple games. I just don't see a consistency with this guy. I want to hear your point. I'm going to give you my objection here because I disagree with you on Xavier Worthy. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, I got to say, Xavier Worthy is, I like to go to the casino. And I like to bet on the low odds bets, but that have really high payouts. I love doing that because if you hit, it's huge. And this team has been looking for a Tyreek Hill replacement for ever since Tyreek Hill left the team. And, they've brought in all these receivers, and most of them haven't worked out. Rashee Rice was pretty good last year, but he wasn't in the role that Tyreek Hill was in. So that role is still available. This guy broke NFL records at the at the combine, and the fastest receiver ever recorded in the NFL. And you just pair that with Patrick Mahomes, and I don't know how you can't be excited about the possibility, the potential that this guy can become the Tyreek Hill replacement and really take that step with the best quarterback in the league. I mean, it's a high risk bet, but it's a bet I'm willing to take. And he's not that expensive on the draft board. He's going at around the same range that Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, those guys are going. And there could be something huge here. And so that's why I like him.
I'd love to get everybody's feedback on this after I kind of give my objection here. What my biggest problem again is target dilution. They got Pacheco there, they got Allaire. Okay, so that's a bit of a, they're going to get some targets. But then they brought in Hollywood Brown, who could be the one. Then they got
but I don't like Hollywood Brown. He sucks. He hasn't done crap in years. I mean,
he could do well, though. I don't like him either, but he could be okay. He does suck a little bit, but he could be okay. And then you got Rashee Rice. We don't know how that suspension is going to be. He comes in. Tony sucks. I mean, but then you got Kelsey, who's the clear-cut one. I mean, again, Rashee Rice has got to be out for a very long time. Brown's got to take a big step down. Xavier Worthy just got to be consistently fed. So I see that there's a path there. Like I can kind of see it, but it almost feels like a diamond in the rough kind of feeling like there's got to be some movement and some juggling. Whereas I look at some other guys like Ladd McConkey, where I just see more of a clear path where he's just going to be fed. Whereas Xavier, he's going to have his boom Gabe speedster kind of guy. We saw guys like John Ross or whatever it was. He ran a quick time and nothing amounted to him. So just because you're a speedster doesn't translate to actual NFL fantasy points. So
I agree. And I generally stay away from the speed guys, the outside speed guys, because they're not good for fantasy. But again, the thing is here is What if he is the Tyreek Hill replacement? What if he can fill those shoes? That's what I'm talking about, man. I mean,
I don't know. I just think there's too much noise. Let us know in the comments below. I just think there's too much noise. If Hollywood Brown wasn't there, I'd say, oh yeah, baby, do it. But they brought in Hollywood Brown and then Rashee Rice. I'm assuming he's going to be out 4 to 6 games is my prediction for Rashee Rice. That's my best guess.
And again, Rashee Rice doesn't operate in the same area of the field that Worthy does. And Hollywood Brown, I don't know if you watched any of his film last year. The guy looked like garbage. Like he was done. He was cooked.
But you're still
and so, I mean, he hasn't been good in like 3 seasons. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's not going to happen for Hollywood Brown. It's not happening.
You're in a watered down 3-headed monster situation where Kelsey's the one. Then you got Kelsey on top of that. If Kelsey retired, I'd be like, oh yeah, all in. But again, I just don't see a clear path. We'll see how this fizzles out. But I think you're wrong on this one. So that's makes a good debate, doesn't it? Let us know in the comments who you think is right. Xavier Worthy, big time breakout, massive. So if you're talking breakout, like we're talking like top 10 finish, is that what we're talking here? What are you thinking for breakout? Like how,
Oh, I'd be happy if he was a top 24 player.
Okay. That's fair expectation.
Where he's going on the draft board, if he ends up as a top 24, you're going to be happy. So
my expectations are so much higher on my guys. Like for our next guy, let's get right into it here. Is Keon Coleman. All right. I like literally obsessed with this guy. I saw some sort of article saying that Khalil Shakir is going to be the one because he's been on that team longer. Dude, I'm not concerned yet.
I don't think so.
Keon Coleman, when I watch his tape, and he was a basketball player before, which was really, really interesting because I didn't even know that when I first saw his tape. When I first saw his tape, I was just like, first of all, I look at, who the rookie is, what TV lands on. Then I really go and observe the tape. And then I kind of get back into the backstory. So I kind of reverse engineer. And first thing I saw when I saw his tape was like Michael Jordan on the field. Like the guy's dynamic. He leaps. He's a beast. Some people saying, well, he's got separation issues. I don't think so, man. I think he's, another thing he does is he really kind of gives him a little push. He creates that distance. When he's playing man-to-man coverage, he kind of pushes that receiver, the corner right off. And he kind of creates a little bit of space here. He's good at blocking for the run game as well. He's just a force on the field is what I saw when I watched the tape as well. He's strong. He's powerful. He can come down with the ball, 50-50, red zone target. And what I love here is, again, there's so many targets to be had with Gibbs gone and Davis. And there's more, just so many targets. I think there's over 300 targets when I looked at the math freed up. But just between those two players, it was like 240, 250 attempts cleared up. Okay, gone. Davis, Gibbs gone. In comes Keon Coleman. There really isn't a threat. Curtis Samuel is not a threat at all to me. You saying Hollywood Brown sucks? I think Curtis Samuel is 1,000 times worse than him, honestly. That's how
I don't know, because Curtis Samuel's had his games. He's had his games where he's done very good for fantasy. I haven't seen it from Marquise Brown in a long time. But yeah, I mean, I love the opportunity here. And again, you look at where he was drafted, early second round pick. I think he was like one of the first 3 picks in the second round. He's coming into a wide open situation. There's not that much target competition. And you talk about Dalton Kincaid, and there's nobody that's a 1 on this team right now. And so that's an opportunity for Keon Coleman to come in and become the one for one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Josh Allen is one of the best. And so I'm in on that. I'll buy in on that a lot. And so again, the only issue is, Counselor, I got to ask you this, because both these guys are basically going almost back to back on the draft board. So you can only get one, Counselor. Which one are you taking, McConkey or Coleman?
I get this asked a lot. This is a great question. And I've thought this over and over and over. And fortunately for me, I was able to reach good enough to have both on all my rosters. My 2K buy-in league, I got them. In my Dynasty League, you saw the crazy trade I made for Keon.
You did this. Yeah, you did the trades to acquire both those guys in your
I was like, I missed out because that was the one I was telling you that these guys are coming off way too early. He came off like 4 rounds ahead of his ADP was Keon Coleman, something ridiculous like that.
Right.
But I ended up getting both. So to answer this question, this is a really, really tough question. I almost feel like the ceiling is higher for Keon Coleman if everything happens the way I feel it'll happen. Like he's the Diggs replacement. So I feel like I just think when I think about it, I think big when I think Keon Coleman. But there's also that thought when you think big, there's always a chance that he could bust. But if you ask me who's safer, who could be a more PPR guy and who ends up finishing on top based on more safe, I think McConkey. So if I had to choose, the way that it sits now, and I could eat my words later, and I was, but I said I would lean a little bit Lad McConkey, but this is a tough one because I like both. Could they both bust? Sure. Could they both be top 10, top 5 receivers? Absolutely. Look who's throwing the ball. So, dude, it's just exciting to have him, and I just love the value that I'm getting him after round 6 when I know I'm getting potential wide receiver ones with a huge ceiling. But yeah, slight edge to McConkey. Guys, let us know in the comments below who you'd rather choose out of these two. But I love both the situations. I love the quarterbacks. I don't know what to say. That's it.
Yeah, for me personally,
Yeah.
Rookie slot guys are always good for fantasy. They're always good. First year, CeeDee Lamb, he was playing in the slot the whole season, and he was great, especially with the volume. He got tons of volume. So I would lead McConkey myself. And that's played out in my draft so far because I've got tons of Lad McConkey and not so much. I do Coleman, but not nearly as much as I have of McConkey. So
yeah, you're almost kind of afraid with Coleman, kind of like he might end up being like a Mike Williams type player where he's just touchdown kind of dependent, not so much volume, and that's kind of my subconsciously in the back of my mind. But then again, I look at the freed up targets, and I look at who's throwing the ball, and I look at how great and dynamic he looks as well. And I think we have ourselves a superstar here, and I'm willing to get him on all my rosters at the ADP of anything after round 6. I'm all in. So yeah, I'm going to reach for him a round or two earlier just to make sure I get him. Your next guy here, I love the talent. I want to go on record here, Jim. This is very important here. I'm all about getting an ace quarterback first and then getting this guy as my backup. This guy, round 7 ADP, round 6 to 7 in a 12-person 1-point PPR leagues. He's coming off round 6 to 7. Jaden Daniels is the guy we're talking about. I love the talent. I hate the team. I hate the offense. I think they need to have some issues at wide receiver. I'm not really sold on McLaurin. I do love Ben Sinnott, by the way. I want to go on record. There's so much upside with this guy. Why did you choose Jaden Daniels as a major breakout here? What is it that really attracted you to him?
Well, again, it's the cheat code in fantasy football is the rushing quarterbacks. This guy was so out of sight last year. If you look at his stats at his senior year games, it was insane what he did, both on the ground and through the air. He's going into a Cliff Kingsbury offense, which is going to be a very high-powered, fast-moving offense, which I like. But just the rushing upside and the rushing touchdowns, the goal line work. He's going to take all the goal line work. That's easy money for fantasy football. And when you look at all of the rushing quarterbacks, he's the last one available that you can get. And so I really like the idea of just grabbing him where he's going off on the draft board. I have about ADP 93 is about where he's going right now. And again, he can be an every week starter right off the bat because of the rushing yards. But he is a good passer too. So, I'm in on him. I think he's a great option, and I do prefer him as my quarterback 2. But I gotta say, man, I'm thinking about taking him as my quarterback 1. You go early, you grab the elite tight end early, and then you wait on the quarterback. Grab Jaden Daniels here at pick 93, and you'll get another quarterback later. But I think you could have a very, very strong build with that kind of thing. So
I love the talent, man. He's got that boom type of potential. He's exciting, man. That's all I got to say. Like, if you watch the tape on him, that's all you got to do. I watch the tape. I'm like, wow. It's just like he's got some wow ability to him. And that could be exciting for fantasy football and really give the Commanders a huge boost. Next guy, massive ceiling. He's my kind of like rider crash type player, man. I've got him on all my rosters. I'm just riding with him. The guy I'm talking about is Zamir White, round 4 to 5 ADP. If you want him, you got to get him by round 5. My only concern is what if we run into, and I know you're kind of not as excited about Zamir White. You hope that not hope, but you think that he might kind of bust. I just hope he doesn't become like a Damian Pierce. That's kind of my concern. But what's really bright about him, what really attracts me is he's young. He's going into his 3rd season. His 2022 year was a write-off. Behind Jacobs last year again, 104 attempts last year, 451 yards, 1 touchdown, 4.3 yards per carry. But what I look at is like the last, after week 15, right? 17 attempts, 22 attempts, 20 attempts, and 25 attempts week 18. And in those 4 games, 2 games over 100 yards rushing, 145 yards on the ground week 16, 112 in week 18. The guy looked like a beast, 6.6 yards per carry in that week 16. He was a volume monster. Jacobs, they didn't pay him. He moved on, and they didn't draft anybody else that's going to be a threat to Zamir White. They brought in Madison, who sucks, who's a failed backup, did literally nothing. Like, he was the starter last year. Did you know Madison was a starter? I think he had like 0 touchdowns, averaged like 3 point something yards per carry, 9 or something like that. Madison is a failed everything. Like, he was never good. Even times, he had some games where Dalvin Cook was hurt years ago where he kind of stepped up. But overall, man, I remember this one week where I had Madison as a cuff, and because I didn't believe in Cook, so I'm like, just going to grab Madison. And Cook got hurt, so I started Madison, and he put up like 3 points. I was like, dude, and then I ripped him on social, and he came to my DMs, or I think he was in the comments, and he kind of came back at me and barked back at me. This was years ago. So I remember Madison failing, even when Cook was down. So Zamir's the guy. And again, he's been on that team. In comes Madison, similar to the Pollard situation. Dude, I love this because you are getting a potential workhorse guy, a workhorse running back in round 4. And this is where I'm saying where I don't mind not going robust RB, going running back early, maybe mixing in a wide receiver, tight end, or a quarterback early, and then getting Zamir White. And I still feel warm and fuzzy at running back. Dude, I'm all over him. And I know your objection here, Jim. I've heard it 1,000 times because I've talked about Zamir White. Before you get into your objection, David Johnson came alive in 2015 out of nowhere, kind of really tore it up in 2015, and he had this record year 2016. That's the day I asked him to endorse the Counselor brand. I was doing a fantasy frame. I'm getting David Johnson 2016 vibes with Zamir White here, and I know you're not.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I consider him a risky pick, although he does rate pretty well in the app. He is rated as a recommend, and certainly the opportunity is there, right? And we, how many times have we seen, players where the star in front of him goes down, and then the guy behind him who's supposed to step up is not able to, and he, like Quentin Johnson is a perfect example of that kind of a player. But Zamir White did step up, and he did play very well in those final 4 games. There's really no real competition in his backfield outside of Alexander Madison. So the opportunity is there that Zamir White could continue and be a good option for fantasy this year. Having said that, I think it is risky because I've seen too many cases of players that come on right at the end, right? Like he never did anything until week 15 of last year. Okay. He did absolutely nothing. But then suddenly week 15, he turns into Superman, has 4 great games, but he has got fresh legs. Everyone else is dead tired because they're 4 months in. And what's going to happen when everybody has fresh legs? Is he going to be able to do it? So I do consider him risky, although I have taken him. I've taken him in a number of drafts, a number of best ball drafts and stuff. And, but I still have that concern. I still have it. I'm not getting the warm and fuzzy feeling that you're getting, Counselor. It's just,
I'm all in on Zamir.
I'm nervous about his opportunity. Like frankly, if it was a choice between, let's say, Zach Moss and Zamir White, I would be inclined to take Zach Moss. Because I've seen Zach Moss step up for an entire season and perform at a high level and is in a good offense. And that's another thing. Las Vegas is going to be a bad offense. They're just going to be bad this year.
You suck. How could you say Zach? Years to wow us. I kind of got wowed a little bit at the end. But
he's been good the past few years. He's been very good. And once he got out of Buffalo, he was good. And so, it's opportunity. It's the offense. How many scoring opportunities is that offense going to have? That's just me. That's just me. I still think Zamir's okay, but I still have concerns, and I'm just voicing my concerns.
How do I not have a sheep sound effect for you? I thought with you and Tim on the show so much, I figured I would have got a sound effect with the sheep with some of your picks, guys. You guys kill me on this. I just don't think he's got the ceiling. Your Zach Moss doesn't have the ceiling. I get better offense and all that, but we'll see. This is one of those ones we'll be watching carefully. We'll come back, and this is where, I may apologize to you and you're definitely going to apologize to me type situation. All right. Next one here. Again, it seems like your players I love the talent, and you're kind of in that like talent situation, prevails type thing. Your guys are good. I just think some of your guys you're mentioning here lack a little bit of opportunity. Your next guy, Brock Bowers, I love the talent, right? Top tight end prospect coming in. I don't like the opportunity where he's on. And it's funny because he's on the team that I was just talking about. Like Brock
Exactly.
Bowers.
He is also on the Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah, I mean, I got to say, for years, the general consensus was that you never take a tight end before year 3 because it takes him 3 seasons to develop into a full player that is startable in fantasy. But what we've seen over the past few years is that's not the case anymore. Last year was Sam Laporta and Trey McBride and who were some of the other guys? But there's these guys that are just coming right out of college as tight ends, stepping right into the offense and being a major part of that offense. Brock Bowers was taken 12th overall, I want to say, 12th or 13th overall in the draft. Huge amount of draft capital. The guy is a beast. I mean, he is a monster. And apparently he's garnered the nickname businessman from from the team because the guy, he's very serious, doesn't crack a lot of jokes. He's just all business on the field. And I think that, I think he could just be another one of those tight ends that just immediately a relevant part of the offense, getting a fantasy relevant number of targets right off the bat because he's that good and he's that big and he's going to be utilized.
It's weird. Like Michael Mayer, nothing ended up happening with him last year. He was drafted with high draft capital last year. They got Jacoby Myers. They got Adams. And then you got a Minshew, Aiden O'Connell issue. Like who's the one there? Probably going to be O'Connell. Again, I don't know. I'm not excited about it. Like I'm just not like, like jumping over. Like I'm not like Sam Laporta excited last year. I think there's other tight ends I like over him this year. And again, all the answers will be in 16 rounds on who I like exactly. I just think, again, path to success is not there. He's definitely not going to be the one there. And even, you got Adams. So let's say it becomes the 2, then you got Minshew throwing to him. I don't know, man. It's suspect. Again, Zamir White's talk about nicknames. He said businessman. Zamir White's called Zeus. I forgot to mention that. Zeus. So there's a reason why they call him Zeus. He's a god. He's a god. So in fantasy and football, of course.
Yeah, I just think that Bowers and Bowers, when you look at how crowded the receiving core was in Detroit for Laporta, and Laporta just came in and just took the number. He was the number 2 in targets there.
That was obvious. I saw that though. Because I didn't think Williams was good. I knew that he was going to be the wide receiver 2 there. That's what I saw. Right.
Yeah. And I think the same thing can happen for Brock Bowers. And I like the fact, early on, he was going way early. He was like going as like the tight end 4 or 5, which I was like, that's ridiculous. That's way too high. But now he's fallen and he's like the tight end 10, 11 coming off the board. Very easy get. And the upside is there. And so I'm like, I would prefer him to the other guys that are going around where he's going, like Dalton Schultz or Dallas Goedert or those tight ends. I think that Brock Bowers has more upside than those guys and more opportunity. So,
all right, 2 more running backs here. Again, before we get into these last 2 guys, make sure you guys grab the 16 round plus tool. Linked it below. Make sure you guys are searching below the links. There's some amazing values, some amazing links. We got the summit, we got the solution, we got the plus tool. Amazing stuff that's going to help you guys get a massive advantage. Practical stuff you can use, dive into, roll up your sleeves, and get excited about. So grab the tool and the solution. Last guy here for my guy is Trey Benson. I'm getting a lot of pushback with James Conner being the one. But I don't know. Everyone's saying James Conner is so good. He's so efficient. I look at his stats, and he's only had, I think he's going into his 8th season. I talked about this yesterday in my show on running backs I dislike. He's going into his 8th season. He's only had one 1,000-yard rushing season. Last year finished I think he was 18th amongst running backs, and he was slated as the starter, 208 attempts. Didn't really do much with what he had. And then a couple of years ago, he had an okay year because he was very touchdown heavy. He had a lot of touchdowns that one year. He's not good. He's good. He's not outstanding. He's older. He was a backup to Le'Veon Bell for years. He couldn't even surpass Le'Veon Bell, who was overrated and a product of that offense. Because as soon as Le'Veon Bell went to the Jets, he sucked. And I keep going to this example because it's so important. I remember when they had Connor and they had, I think it was D'Angelo Williams or something like that, and they had Bell. It was like they did well too in that offense because they had Antonio Brown spreading the field. And then when Le'Veon Bell went to the Jets, everyone was like telling you draft Le'Veon Bell round 1. I'm like, don't do it. He sucks as a product of the offense, and he busted. So Le'Veon Bell was never that good. He was the product of the offense. And Connor couldn't even surpass him. It was like, okay, he was a backup his whole years. In comes Trey Benson, who is coming to the Fantasy Sports Summit, by the way. And again, I chose him because I asked him to come because I believed in the talent. Top running back prospect out of this draft. Great 4.39 speed, ability to break tackles, phenomenal player, nose for the end zone, lots of tread on the tires. This guy out of Florida is an absolute beast and monster. Him like Keon Coleman out of Florida. These Florida guys, there is some upside here. And when you're looking at the situation, he's the one. I don't see any other way. Now, this could be a Jahmyr Gibbs Montgomery situation. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But I'm drafting Trey Benson as my RB4 with the upside to be a top 10 running back and easily surpass James Conner. I don't like Conner being there, Jim. It annoys me, dude. It annoys me.
Well, Connor is the incumbent, so it's Trey's job to unseat him.
Yeah.
And I've got lots of concerns about James Conner. First of all, he's missed 4 games in each of the past 2 seasons. That's a lot of missed time. He's at that age cliff time period. He's age 28, 29 right now. I don't have that in front of me. But again, when running backs hit the decline, they plunge. Look what happened to Eckler last year. Look what happened to Eckler. Two prior seasons, the guy had 20 touchdowns in each of those seasons. And then last year, he was like the RB 37 when all was said and done. Right. And that's what we're talking about. And Mother Nature comes for all these older backs. This is a young man's game, and running backs are one of the highest attrition players that there are, just because of all the hits they take. So anyway, I would bet on the youth here. I think Trey Benson is going at a pretty good spot on the draft board where I see him going. I actually see him closer, like round 8, round 9 is where I see him. And, as like your 4th running back, I'm totally fine with taking a chance on him. And he's going to get his opportunities just because Connor's going to get hurt. So
love the upside, man. Major breakout potential. All right, last guy here, Marshawn Lloyd. And he's the guy that turned me off of Josh Jacobs. Marshawn Lloyd has that upside, man. Explosive. What are your thoughts on Lloyd?
Yeah, I wasn't real excited about Marshawn Lloyd just because of his draft capital. He was a day 2 player, which is good. And I saw him basically as a replacement for A.J. Dillon, and which I believe he is. He's, A.J. Dillon
so much more than
might
that.
get cut before the season even starts.
I think he's so much more than that, than a replacement to A.J. Well, yeah, he's going to replace A.J. Dillon, yes, on paper, but I think he's just going to be so much better than that,
Right. But you look at what A.J. Dillon did in the 2022 season, and there was a lot of volume there that he got. And, obviously something happened with it. I think he was hurt. I think his body just can't hold up. So that's why he was so bad last year. But Marshawn Lloyd is taking over a role where they are going to utilize 2 backs. They will be utilizing 2 backs, and it will be something similar to a Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery kind of situation that we're going to see in Green Bay. Green Bay is like that guy that has a bunch of girlfriends and he doesn't want to pick one of them to be like his girlfriend. He's like, I got all these girls around me and I'll like this one and this one and this one and this one. That's what they're doing with their whole team, man. They've got 7 receivers and they've got 2 running backs, and they're just going to utilize whichever one they feel like they're using. So, they're a commitment phobic team is what I'm trying to say.
I want to stop you for a second here. And I don't see the hype at all with this. Everybody and their mother. I see like videos flash on my screen, like reels and shorts. And sometimes I'll tune into like some sleeper videos from some of the sheep consensus analysts. And they're talking about Dontavian Wicks. They're like, you got to have Dontavian Wicks. Let's talk about it real quickly. Round 5 pick. Last year, 39 receptions, 4 touchdowns, 581 yards. He's 6'1", 206. Dontavian Wicks won't even smell my team. Like, he won't even come. He's like a wide receiver 4. Like you got to get through Dobbs, who was the guy that in the playoffs last year. You got to get through Watson, and he's saying he's going to stay healthy this year. You got to get through Jaden Reed. And you got Josh Jacobs catching the ball backfield. Then you got their tight ends. Why would you even suggest drafting a wide receiver 4 who's going to be like the 7th receiving target on this offense. Again, I don't see, I mean, they're hyping him up like he's going to be a major breakout. I had to address this because Wicks has no chance to have any upside based on all the receivers they've got there. It's ludicrous. Anyone telling you Wicks is an idiot. Like they have no business giving fantasy football advice. Jim, what is the deal with Wicks? What's the hype?
Well, again, I think he'd probably be good for best ball because he can have those explosive games. That's what we saw. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't see how he's going to be able to usurp any of those 3 receivers you mentioned that are above him. Personally, I'm in on Reed as being the number 1 target on this team, even though, again, like I said, they don't like to commit. They like to say, oh, we don't have a wide receiver 1 on this team. It's like, you're going to have one that you're going to favor over all the others. I think it's going to be Reed.
I think it's Dobbs.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're kind of seeing where Dobbs is going to be on this offense at about 100 targets. But the thing is, for me, with second-year receivers that place in the top 36, they rank in the top 36, those rookies, second year, their average increase in volume is 30%. Average. In volume. And we kind of saw that with Dobbs because Dobbs went from like 75 targets to 96 targets from year 1 to year 2. But Reed is going from 94 targets in year 1 up to like 30% more of that in year 2. So that's why I'm like in on Reed. But regardless, again, it's a commitment phobic team. But there are guys that are, I think, good for best ball just because they're going to have those explosive weeks. They're going to have those weeks where they're going to be like, I'm going to target you. And, you're going to get the 2 touchdowns. So, that's what's going to happen.
Wide receiver roulette. But in regards to Lloyd, I really think he's really going to dip into the volume of Josh Jacobs. And I'm going to keep going this example till the cows come home. I'm going to keep hammering this example. Last year, Kenneth Walker finished 19th amongst running backs. Zach Charbonnet didn't have a lot of volume, but he had like 33 receptions, 400 some odd yards. But because Charbonnet had that volume, it pushed him out of the top 10. That difference of 30 receptions, I don't know what it was, 50, 60 points. That pushed him from a top 10 finish at running back to 19th, just from him pesting that away. I think Marshawn Lloyd will be good enough to completely push out Josh Jacobs out of the top 10. That's the type of vibe I'm getting here. I think he'll do what Zach Charbonnet did, but better, and have some explosive games where you're wondering, who is the running back 1? I think Lloyd will give you that. I think Lloyd will make you feel like you regret that 3rd round ADP pick on Josh Jacobs. That's my prediction on this. I really do. I feel that.
Yeah, I think my prediction is we're going to see that they're going to be both fantasy relevant. They're both going to be good for fantasy. And, I see Jacobs as a low end 1, high end 2, and Marshawn Lloyd as like a low 2, high 3. I mean, they can both do that. That's how they're running offenses now. And if it's a good offense, which Green Bay is going to be a great offense this year, I think there's going to be a lot of scoring opportunities, and I think both of them are going to be doing very, very fine. But Marshawn Lloyd, his ADP is very, very tempting at where he's going right now. 11th round, 11th, 12th round. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing right now. So yeah,
that's wild. Great value for a guy who's explosive, has got a ton of upside. Rookie Marshawn Lloyd, let's get it. All right, that's it, man. That is your top 10 fantasy football breakouts 2024. People were saying, like, after we did that long episode last week, like, more long episodes. Yeah, so when Jim comes in, we tend to do a little longer episodes than me and Tim. Tim and I just kind of fight and bite each other's, faces off. And then me and Jim are kind of like more deep dive into analytics and stuff. And he's got that best ball spin as well. So yeah, more long episodes coming, guys. We're full force. Again, grab the 16 round plus tool. It's an amazing tool. I highly endorse it. Jim's put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of resources, a lot of techie, nerdy stuff into it. And it's really going to give you an edge because you need to nerd out a little bit for fantasy football if you want to get that edge. So 16 round plus tool. If you haven't got it, Jim has done the research. Him and his nerd friends have created an app that'll help you guys win.
My nerd friends, I did it all myself. None of my nerd friends helped me with this. I did it all myself.
You are the nerd. There you go. I didn't want to say it. I was trying to be nice. All right, man. Well, thank you, guys. We're all kind of nerds. It's funny because I was talking to a guy of authority before, an official in the government one time, and I was getting my license renewed or something, and he's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a fantasy guy," because I was wearing my shirt. "Oh, you're one of those nerds, eh?" I'm like, "Yeah. Can you just renew my license, please?" And I get out. You're right. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. All right, that's funny. They kind of bully us a little bit, us fantasy heads, but yeah. Anyways, guys, smash it, tap it, slap it, go grab his shirt. Show him you're not a nerd. Show him you're a lion. All right, guys. We'll talk soon, Jim. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks, Jim. It was a good one today, man. Really was.
Hey, thank you, counselor. Have a good one, everybody.
We're out. Talk soon.